Speaking of coaching, we had some big news in the SEC, but away from college football yesterday when it was announced that Bruce Pearl is stepping down as the Auburn basketball head coach after 11 seasons. Of course, the winningest coach at Auburn, and not because he's a compiler, but because he was quite literally very, very successful in his tenure, in his run there. Of course, was this past season, probably the best season in Auburn basketball history. Of course, a record 32 wins, a trip to the Final Four, 6 or 5 SEC championships, I think, during his tenure, Gerhard. Just a lot of great things to hang your hat on. He already said he's not going to go run for the Senate seat.
That's right.
He's going to be an ambassador at the school, but I think that it seems like the change of hand with his son Stephen taking over is a seamless, so to speak, transition that Auburn is glad to be making, given if he wants to go as Bruce Pearl, then this is the right thing to move.
I think if any university is going to get rid of or going to have a Power 5 coach in basketball or football leave, this is the situation that you want. Somebody that's already in the program, that's embedded, that knows the program, and they've been a part of the build. Because if you go to Stephen Pearl, if you go to auburntigers.com, you go to Stephen Pearl's page, they list him as associate director, and then the names that he has helped develop. And we're talking about Jabari Walker and Walker Kessler, these guys that are playing great in the NBA right now. Janai Broome, who just have an All-American season. So you have somebody who's helped build the future of Auburn. Tahad Pettifer's another guy, and can take Auburn to that next level. And so I think that Auburn thinks that they're leaving it obviously in good hands, and then Bruce Pearl knows that he's leaving it in good hands. And his player is a guy, or his son is a guy that played for him and that coached for him. We talked about this yesterday. He wasn't handed the associate head coaching role at the very beginning.
He was not.
He earned it. He
wasn't even on really the staff. He was like a strength and conditioning guy. It's not like he just was on the coattails of Bruce Pearl his entire career. I mean, the guy worked his way up, and Bruce Pearl, just look at the way he coaches. If you think he's the type of daddy that's just handing things over to his son, you're probably mistaken. This guy was not silver spoon fed. He earned everything. He helped earn the wins, and Bruce Pearl gave him the credit that was due. And I think he would go the scenic route at times to say, or to make it known, I'm not doing this because we share the same last name. I'm doing this because he's earned it. And I think that if Auburn didn't feel that way, he wouldn't be the head coach.
He wouldn't be there. He would not be there.
I mean, Auburn is Auburn. Anybody would want that job. I mean, come on. So I think when I want to talk to Stephen Pearl back during the Final Four and the run in Atlanta, of course, with the Sweet 16 Elite 8 and then to their San Antonio, I asked him, what does this look like someday? Now, did I think that day was going to be 6 months later? Hell no. I mean, I thought it was going to be a long time from now. I think everyone kind of did. The timing of this is still a little bit surprising. I'm not going to speculate. Not going to sit here and ask questions. I mean, at the end of the day, if the man wakes up one day and says, this is not what I want to do anymore, it's his decision to make. He's grown. But I do think that the timing is interesting. The decision for it to be Stephen Pearl is not. I think he was ready. The way his response to me, from what I recall from the conversation, was very much that's the plan. That's what we are gearing up for. That is the natural progression of what is next here on the Plains. The timing of it's interesting, and I think we'll find out pretty quickly how different does it look. Does it look much different in the win-loss column? And I still think, again, 5-year contract, they want this to work. It's not like they're sitting there trying to say, hey, see if you can do it in a year and then take the interim tag off.
They have pledged that, hey, our future is in the hands of Stephen Pearl, and I think that they have just as much confidence in him because he has been riding shotgun under one of the best resurgences in all of college basketball. Talked to Jim Dunaway yesterday. He's put it perfectly. Auburn was the worst job in the SEC easily before he got there, and now can he just keep it going? Now, I don't think, obviously, Bruce Pearl, it took him a while to build a Final Four resume and all of this, but he did it at to me, a great clip. I want to leave this graphic up here, Patrick, because the one thing that is not on his resume is a national championship. So I did an interesting thought experiment of the best coaches in college basketball to never win a national championship. And the names I could come up with, maybe you have a couple more: Mark Few at Gonzaga, Bob Huggins, who was at Cincinnati, then at West Virginia. I know that's a sore spot for Patrick. And John Chaney, who was at Temple. Those are the guys that I could come up with that had, a great resume, multiple conference championships, maybe a number 1 seed. honestly, if it's those three, outside of Mark Few, who's probably the only other coach I'd put on Bruce Pearl's level, if I'm building a Mount Rushmore of coaches that are just right there in a crazy, it's a any given Sunday kind of game, because you don't play a series, you play one game. I think if Auburn played a series last year in the Final Four all the way through, Auburn would have won. Yep. Auburn was the best team in America, but because you play one game sample sizes, it's really small. I think Mark Few might be one, and honestly, Bruce Pearl might be. He's in an argument with one of the best, if not the best, coaches to ever coach that hasn't won a championship.
Yeah, and I mean, I got the chance to talk to him at the Final Four when I went down with the U.S. Basketball Writers Association, and I just remember how calm he was.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, he's been there before. He went with them in 2019 until Kyle Guy just somehow made a shot that got Virginia the national championship that year. But, he was just so calm, and he was just so proud of his players. Because I don't remember what Dylan Cardwell said, but it had him in tears at the press conference that I was in. I don't recall exactly what it was, but, I mean, he was a guy that truly cared about his players, and I'm sure Steven will feel the exact same about it.
Yeah, and I think that they're different in their approach. One is younger, one is more fiery. I think that was one thing they always talked about, was that Bruce Pearl was like the loving father figure dad type, whereas kind of Steven was a little bit more of like the older brother, younger, fiery. I mean, Bruce Pearl seemed fiery on the sideline, right, or on the bench, right? He was that way in the games, but the guy was really just a really like lovable person who did have this huge meaningful impact. You watch that goodbye video,
right?
I mean, he's crying the entire time.
Yep. Yeah,
the entire time he's crying, and that's who he was. He wore his heart on his sleeve. That's what I take away from him on the bench. It's not like fiery, like yelling at you. He's gonna yell at you, but he's gonna hug you and pat you on the butt and say like, "Hey, I love you, guy," every single time, because he really did truly love these guys. I think that what you said, Gerhard, is so important to remember about college basketball. And having played the sport, of course, at a different level, and women's basketball in this day and age is booming more than it ever has at pro level and college level. But the margin of error is tiny. And to make a run, I remember when I talking to Bruce Pearl after both Final Four losses, and I have chills. Wow, I just got chills even bringing this up, is because when I did, it is so exhausting to get to that point. And the elation, I did a one-on-one interview with him after both Elite Eight wins to advance to the Final Four. The elation in doing that is like winning a national title. Because to be one of the four standing at that point, you not only have to be good, but the ball has to roll your way.
Yep.
Why do you think Duke should have won? Duke should have won a national championship.
Right.
The ball didn't roll their way.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
And then you win Houston. Houston was great. Florida, I mean, if you're picking four teams, you're looking at the people that were in that Final Four. Any one of those teams, they could have been 25% across the board. And I don't mean just because there's four there. I mean because it could have gone anyway. You get to the Final Four, and at that point, there's so much in that. I think that's why they really do kind of make that a benchmark of success for college basketball coaches, and national championships are just like really the gravy on top, and that is what sets aside the greats of the greats, the Roy Williams, the Coach K's, and the John Woodens. But when you think about that next level, that upper echelon names will be remembered forever, I think Bruce Pearl is right there because of the Final Fours and the deep runs in the tournament.
Absolutely, because you're able to do it multiple times as well. So that means different cast of characters. And he's doing it in a time where all these guys are getting paid. It's all one and done. And he's actually, been hurt by the one and done as well, because, he had hurt being, he's drafted guys and developed guys to be able to go to the pros and have nice, fruitful careers in the pros. But he's coaching one guy in August, and then he is gone by the next May, June, or July. Yep. And so it's interesting. But no, I think that his legacy is absolutely cemented, and you're seeing the differences in a guy like Bruce Pearl and a guy like Mike Gundy.
Yeah.
Guys that have been in the game for a really long time, and one going as school record in the Final Four, and another guy going out a little bit sadder. And it just kind of lets you know that if a coach really has some self-awareness about where he is, he makes these kind of decisions.
On their own
if that's what makes the Bruce Pearl decision so much more, in my opinion, so much better.